All right,
All
welcome.
right. You want to introduce us, Trenton, or shall
Sure,
I?
I'll get it started real quick. So yeah, this is workshop number 3 of our finance for remote workers. So I appreciate having Vincenza and Alicia here today again. If you haven't watched the other 2, we have them on our YouTube channel. One of them, I think, is getting compliant ready as far as closed captioning goes, which reminds me I should turn that on right here. Yeah, and this is the one that we're going to talk about, Powerpay, which is paying down your debt and other things. So the remote work certificate, or the remote online initiative, is a program where we teach people how to work from home. And we have unique circumstances sometimes where people have found new employment in a home where maybe the mom was a stay-at-home mom or something like that, and so they have a lot of additional income, and sometimes not knowing what to do with that income is a challenge for remote workers. And so we're grateful for our partners in crime here with the Utah State Extension. My brain is just lost it. But anyway, so with our empowering financial wellness team. So I'll let you guys introduce yourselves, but you know, this is a great partnership where we learn a lot from these guys, and we've had lots of opportunities to work with them. So thank you, Vincenza and Alicia.
Thank you for that introduction. So I'll just start off by saying that I am one of the 2 program coordinators. Alicia and I both have been working for the Empowering Financial Wellness Program with Utah State University Extension. I'm also an accredited financial counselor. And today, this program is brought to you by Utah Department of Workforce Services, as well as Utah State University Extension. And so we're going to focus on a few things today. So we're going to jump right in and show you what we're going to be covering today. But I'm just super curious. I'd love to hear. I know I heard somebody say Russell studies in Price, but I'd love to hear where everybody else is tuning in from, and what's the temperature where you are. I can tell you I'm in Salt Lake, and the temperature, I believe, is 37 degrees. So let us know where you're tuning in from. Okay, so our objectives today, we're going to cover talking about ways to decrease financial stress, right? We are we've been in a period of very high inflation. We've been in a pandemic. There's a war going on. There's lots going on right now. A lot of people are feeling the stress financially, because that's affecting pretty much everybody. So Richfield, awesome. Price, Rexburg, oh, Idaho, nice. 24, ooh, that's a little chilly. Anything below freezing for me, I'm peace out. Secondly, we're going to talk about how to create a debt payoff plan. And this payoff plan is a free online tool that will save you time and money, and you don't have to come up with any extra payments. And then lastly, you might be in that position where you're focused on paying down your debt, and maybe you're looking at ways to try to free up a little bit of money to make extra payments so you can get out of debt faster. So we're going to share with you some of our favorite tips to do that. Oh, St. George, it's even chilly in St. George. Oh my. Okay, so thanks everybody for participating, letting us know where you're tuning in from. So let's start off with, I don't have a good dad joke, but I have like an activity I'd like you to think about. What if you got an unexpected windfall of $10,000? And that's net after taxes, like you've got $10,000. I love if you would share in the chat, or you can unmute yourself. What is the first thing or two that comes to mind? What would you do? What would you do with $10,000? Let's see what we've got here. Invest it. Love that. You can put up to $22,500 in a 401k or 403b this year. So put it towards retirement. You could put up to $6,500 in an IRA, and if you're over 50, you can do an additional $1,000. So that's probably what I would, ooh, new kitchen, that sounds nice too. I love a new bathroom. Invest in buying land. So a lot of you are thinking about investing in retirement is investing for your future. Yeah, reduce some debt and probably invest in real estate. Yep. So most of you, nobody said I'm going to go on a vacation or go on a shopping spree. Nobody? Buy a car? Buy a tiny house. Ooh, and put the rest in IRA. You're going to go to Ghana. Yeah. So you got your, it's a working vacation, but you know, you got Ghana. Good for you. Yeah, I'd probably just max out an IRA. Just, you know, as I get older, I realize someday I'm going to have to stop working. I'm just not going to be able to work anymore. So yeah, a car too. Yeah, we have a 13-year-old car and it's still going. So we'll probably hang on to it since used car prices are still so high. But anyway, I just wanted to hear like, and know what you're thinking about in terms of if you had $10,000. So I'm glad that we're all pretty much in the mindset of, you know, investing, because you understand the value of investing in compound interest. And that compound interest is actually what can really crush us when we're paying it when we've got high interest debt. So think about it that way. I taught a class the other day to a group of interns, and somebody mentioned something that Warren Buffett has said. He said, if I could guarantee you 20% on your money, would you take it? And of course, everybody says, yeah. And he said, well, if you think about it, not using a high interest credit card that's charging 20% is an immediate way to get 20% on your money. I was like, that's brilliant. You think about it that way, you know, the compound interest is wonderful when it's working for us, but can really be crushing when it's working against us. So we're going to talk about some ways to help crush that debt. So first off, Alicia's going to take us through just ways to talk about decreasing financial stress with some tips.
And I think going right along with what Vincenza was just saying, that compound interest is one of those things when we are paying it, that can really be stressful to many people, especially as we actually see how much that adds up to in the short term and the long run as well. But studies have shown that financial stress, especially stress that comes from having debt, can affect all aspects of your life, from physical, mental, emotional, and relationships, and it can even affect your work performance and productivity at work, but also just in general as well. And a large amount of debt, the effects of inflation, or simply irresponsible spending could cause further undue stress as well, financially. And we call each of these instances a financial crisis. And even if you are financially responsible, an unexpected expense could be all that it takes really to send you into financial duress, especially if you're not prepared to cope with it. And whether the stress is caused by something that you're not prepared for, or just because of having insufficient money management skills, which we're hoping to help out with, if that's you right there, understand that you can do something about it. Sometimes the stress that comes from our financial situations and from debt can be kind of debilitating and really make us feel like, oh, I can't really do anything about this. But there are lots of things that are still within our control. And we all experience stressful situations at some times in our lives. And about 94% of people that were recently polled in a study or in a survey said that financial stress was a part of their lives, especially during the pandemic in the last couple of years. But it's really how we deal with that stress that shapes our experiences afterwards, and really what we're able to do coming out of those financial situations as well. And so we have 4 healthy coping tips to help out with coping with this financial stress, especially that can come from having debt. And so our first one is to educate yourself about finance basics and the terms of your finances and your debts in particular. And that's because really anything that's unknown can usually end up being stressful. So a particular topic that maybe you don't feel like you're very educated in, if you jump right into it, that can feel pretty stressful, or just kind of in general. And kind of think to yourself, do you actually know how much debt you have right now? If I were to ask each of you, if you do have debt, how much that total is, would you be able to tell me right now? Would you be able to tell me what the interest rates are of each of your debts? And it's kind of surprising how many people don't actually know what their interest rates are, or just simply their balances, and how much that interest is adding up to, especially with that compound interest. And that's something that I really had stand out to me in my experiences of financial counseling. Many people don't know even just what their interest rates are. So that's something, if you don't know that, especially with most debts, or many debts these days, being variable interest rates, and those changing a lot right now with the Fed's raising rates, we definitely invite you to look at your statements or talk to your creditors and see what those are. And we will be talking a little bit more about that and a tool to help out with that here in a little bit as well. Our second one, acknowledge your debt and write it down. This goes hand in hand with our first one as well. So talk to your partner, trusted family member, or a good friend about your debt and begin writing it down. All the debt that you have, and do it in an organized manner. We will be sharing a tool today to help out with that called a real debt report. And this can be really helpful in a couple of different ways. It helps you to be able to start tackling your debts one by one. And also, this can help you have a clearer picture of your situation right now. Sometimes, especially if we haven't taken the opportunity to write our debts down or really see where we are, then sometimes that stress around our debts or our finances can just multiply and be even worse than it actually is. It feels sometimes as though our situation is worse than it is until we take some time to write things down and see really where you are. So we definitely invite you to do that and use the real debt report that we share and demonstrate here in just a little bit. Also, practicing self-compassion as well. Remind yourself that you are doing the best that you can, and accept the things that you cannot change, and take action on the things that you can change about your financial situation. For example, you can practice mindful spending for your discretionary purchases. So with that, do you need it? Do you like it? Do you love it? Or do you just want it? You can also revisit your spending habits by tracking what you're spending and evaluating your purchases that way. And you can also make a financial goal for the year. It's not too late to do that, as we're still pretty well at the beginning of the year, and focus on that. Or maybe you can tweak some of the categories in your budget, even just temporarily, as you focus on reaching the financial goals that you set, or in becoming debt-free as well. And so really, we want you to control the controllables. You can't control the economy. You can't control everything that happens in the world. And right now, there's a lot happening in the world that we can't control, but we want to invite you to focus on controlling the controllables. And you can control your attitude towards these things and the way that you personally respond to these different events as well. And then you can focus your energies on the things that you can do to shape the future of your lives as well. And then with our last one, keep your morale high with financial quick wins. So we want you to celebrate the wins and your progress, especially if one of your goals is to become debt-free as well. So set attainable goals and celebrate small wins along the way and reward yourself to help keep you going. So one example that would be helpful to me is I love sweets. I love sweet treats, and so does my husband. So if we were to set a goal to save $100, this isn't exactly debt related, but to save $100 this month and get that into our emergency fund. If we were to achieve that goal, we could break it down into $25 each week that we need to kind of come up with. And if we were to achieve that goal, then we could go out for ice cream. So something that's still a budget friendly thing, but that helps motivate you to keep going, reaching your longer term goals. If we had an example with that, if we had a goal to have $1,000 in an emergency fund by the end of the year, that breaks down to about $100 a month. And so then getting ourselves a treat, whether it's ice cream or a cookie or going and getting some chocolate covered almonds from the store or something like that, that's still budget friendly, but can help keep us motivated as well. And it does have a lot of psychological benefits as well that can help with bolstering your financial health and your overall well-being, and really just help keep you going in the long run as well. And so Vincenza will go ahead and take us through our second objective.
Okay, so if you are in the mindset of it's 2023, I'm going to pay off X amount of debt, start by making a list of all your debts. And I know when I was in this predicament, I think that was the hardest thing, was to actually write everything down. You know, I was used to paying the bills every month and I was making my minimum payments, but seeing it, you know, all written down in one place and seeing actually what I owed, what the interest rates were, how long it would take me to pay off, it was kind of a whoa, like I'd never really done that before. And so that can sometimes kind of light that fire in your belly and say, okay, that's it, I'm done. At least that's what it did for me. So that is the first step. You need to know and decide which debts are you going to focus on. You might have a mortgage that you're not going to focus on paying off right now, or you have a car that it's an affordable, reasonable car payment. It's not really, you're maybe focused on more of your high interest debt that you really want to knock out. Because if you're only making minimum payments on high interest debt, understand that a minimum payment is typically 2 to 3% of a balance with a credit card. And so if you're only making minimum payments of 2 to 3%, but you're being charged 18 to 28%, you could see why this would take a long time. So that's the first step. And so this is just a sheet to show you. We have it. We can send it your way. You can download it, or at least it just gives you a framework of like, here's where I write it down. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but it could just be a way to help you organize your debt. And so we call this a real debt report. And I'm also going to show you how you would do this in Powerpay, which is that free debt reduction tool we are going to demonstrate for you. So you can put it in any order you want. But what's important is as we enter this information into Powerpay, it's really important that we have all of the information accurate. So you need to check your latest statement, call your lender or creditor if you're not sure what your balance is, what your interest rate is. It's really important that we understand all that, because it's a calculator and it will only work and be beneficial to you if you put in accurate information. So it's important not to guess what your minimum payment, even if you've been making more than minimum payments, it's important that you just put in the minimum payment and that you understand exactly the interest rate that you're paying. And so this tool is available at powerpay.org. It's a free debt reduction tool because, you know, sometimes it can be stressful. We just talked about how to not be stressed out by our finances, but it can be stressful to manage multiple debt payments and multiple due dates, and sometimes with very minimal income. And if you're trying to pay down debt, sometimes it's confusing to figure out, okay, which one should I pay down first? Or if I have an extra income this month, which one should I throw it at? Which debt should I be focused on paying down? So that's what this tool will help you do. It'll show you different scenarios of how to get out of debt faster and save money without having to come up with extra payments. So you would go to powerpay.org and you would sign up to use this free tool. You need an email, and then it'll ask you to create a password. It does not ask you for any account numbers or any personally identifiable information, so you don't have to worry about that. So you might be wondering, how does PowerPay work and I don't have to come up with any extra money or extra payments? So it's called the Power Payment. And so here's how it works. You have, let's say this person's focused on paying down 3 debts. They have credit card, they have a car, and they have a student loan. And they're making minimum payments on all of their debts until that first one is paid off. So that monthly payment that was going towards the first debt, that dollar amount is now going towards that second debt. And then you continue to make minimum payments on that other debt. And then when that car gets paid off, so now we've got credit card paid off, we've got a car paid off, and those payments that we were used to paying every month, now it's all going towards the last debt in our list of the debts that we decided we wanted to focus on paying off. And this process continues for as many debts as you have. So instead of reabsorbing that money that's been freed up by paying off a debt or debts, you're consciously putting that money and putting it towards the next debt instead of spending it. And so that's how it works. And so you're able to pay down faster. You're paying extra on the principal. That's important. That if you're making extra payments, you're making extra payments towards the principal balance, not prepaying interest. Prepaying interest does not save you money. Paying down the principal is what saves you money, because when the interest is calculated, it's calculated on a lower balance. So I'm going to switch real quick and just show you PowerPay. So this is information. Let's say this is my, I'm going to talk to you about Shelly real quick. So Shelly owes $43,500, and she makes $1,135 payments every month. Those are minimum payments for all of her debts, and she's just listed here the debts that she has. So she's got a credit card, three credit cards, a hospital bill, and a car payment. And so she lists down what's her balance, what's the interest she's paying, what is her minimum payment. And so Shelly sits down and puts all of that information into PowerPay. And you could do that immediately into PowerPay. This is the creditor information page. So again, you can name it whatever you want, whatever works for you to remember. If you have multiple credit cards, name it whatever you want. Here's where you put your balance. You put your minimum payment, what's the interest rate you're paying. And then every time you would enter a debt, I would suggest you hit save creditor information. And then right away, PowerPay tells you, if you continue to make minimum payments on your debt, how long will it take you to pay off that particular debt? And in this case, the debt that's going to take the longest, even though it's not really, relatively speaking, a large amount, because she is paying so much interest, it'll take her 9 years and 1 month to pay off. Again, because minimum payment is typically 2 to 3% of your balance. If you're paying 20% interest, it's going to take some time. Right? So that's the first step. Now, right away, PowerPay will tell you, okay, that $43,500 that I said Shelly owes, by the time all is said and done and 9 years and 1 month have passed, assuming she doesn't add any more debt, because in order for the benefits of any debt elimination plan to work, you cannot add to the debt. You have to stop using the credit card, stop adding to it. So it's telling her, well, Shelly, that $43,500 will turn into $58,381 because you will have paid almost $15,000 in interest. I can think of a lot better things to do with $15,000 if I didn't have to than to pay interest. But interest is the price we pay for the benefit of borrowing money. People forget, I think, that credit cards are simply short-term loans with high interest. It's really what it is. It's a high interest loan, but sometimes we forget because of the convenience of using the credit card. So this is Shelly's situation. Now Shelly has an option. She's got some options. She's looking at PowerPay and she's saying, okay, well, here I am. What can I do? So I showed you Powerpay right away will tell you, this is how long it'll take you to pay off. This is how much interest you'll pay. And for a lot of people, that's that first time when they go, whoa, I had no idea that's how much I'm going to be paying in interest, right? And so again, now you've created like a mindfulness and a visibility to say, wow, yeah, I really, it got me fired up. I want to get rid of this debt. So Shelly chooses to use Powerpay. She's like, I'm going to use Powerpay. I'm going to see how this works. Now, Powerpay gives you options in the order you want to pay it. And Powerpay will always recommend the method that saves you the most money in interest. But sometimes that's not what motivates people. Sometimes people want to pay off the smaller debts first and get those crossed off the list and then focus on the larger debts. Totally up to you. But Shelly chooses to pay her debt in the order of the highest interest first. So we go from 9 years and 1 month to Shelly being debt-free in 3 years and 10 months. And it's going to be much easier to stick to a 3-year and 10-month debt payoff plan than it is to stick to a 9-year and 1 month plan. Would we agree? A lot can happen in 9 years, right? So this is really like, and then this is without her having to come up with any extra payments. And just by doing that, just by applying those power payments, instead of spending that money that's been freed up by a debt being paid off, she's throwing it at the debt. So now she's just saved herself another $7,000 and years off of paying her debt. So I'm going to show you what that looks like in Powerpay. So after you've entered all of your information, what do I do next? You click on the payment calendar. And so Powerpay shows you, based on the sequence, do I want to pay it off in the highest interest first? Do I want to focus on the lowest balance first? Do I want to do the one that has the shortest term? Do I want to pay them off in the order that I enter them? You have the choice, and it'll show you based on the sequence, how much will you save? And sometimes it's not a big difference. In this scenario, she'll pay a little bit more if she focuses on the shortest term first. But again, that's totally up to you. And here it'll show you exactly based on the sequence that you choose, how quickly will each debt be paid off. And so this person might be more interested in having 4 debts knocked out in a year and 10 months than only having 3 debts knocked out in a year and 7 months. So again, you could look at this and you could say, you know, I prefer to do it this way. Maybe you have a family loan that you really just want to get that monkey off your back and you want to focus on that one first, even if it's not the highest interest. But psychologically, there's some benefit of somebody to do it in that order. And so Powerpay gives you that option. And then we scroll down here. Remember that Powerpay will always automatically default to the method or the order of paying off your debt in the manner that saves you the most money. So here we go. Powerpay spits out what's called a payment calendar. Now, Powerpay does not pay your debts for you, but it shows you what you need to be paying every month. And that's why this is important that you have accurate information about what your payments are, your minimum payments, and what is your interest rate and your balance. And so as you can see, Shelly's going to be paying, going along, paying off her minimum payments for a little while, for about 1.5 years. And then boom, we hit August 2024. She made that last payment in July because she only needed $542 to finish paying off that car. And now we've got money freed up. So guess what it does? Because we chose to pay it off in the highest interest first, it's going to take that extra money over here towards that interest, the one that's the highest interest, and you're going to put that car payment plus the minimum payment you were making on that first debt because it's the highest interest. And then you continue to make minimum payments on the rest. And we go along until we get to October. Now we finish paying off that debt, that high interest credit card, we finish paying off the car. Now all we have are 3 debts. So there's just a little bit left on that other credit card. We're throwing a big chunk at that other credit card that had a little bit less interest, and we're still making our hospital payment bill of $450. And then the next month, look at that. We're finished paying off all the credit cards, the car, and all we have left is that hospital bill. So that minimum monthly payment she was used to paying $1,135, it's all going towards that hospital bill. And she's just going to continue to do that. And then it'll show you over time how much interest you're saving every single month by using Powerpay. So that's how we get, if she were to continue to keep making payments, but she saved $7,000 by doing that. That's how Powerpay works without having to come up with any extra payments. Does anybody have any questions about how this works? And you can put, you can play around with putting in a debt, and seeing like what it would look like on your creditor information page. You can print out the payment calendar here. When you go to that calendar, you could print that out, stick it on your fridge or wherever it is that you pay your bills or you look at it. And you could drag and change the order. You can delete, you can make a clone of a profile and try a different scenario. You can there's a lot of flexibility with it. Just if you see, well, what would it look like if I put my car payment in there? How long would it take me to pay off? Or no, I don't want to include the car or whatever. You can totally do that. And it's pretty simple. But if you didn't want to re-enter it, you could just clone the profile and then make changes to a second profile, just to save you a little bit of time with data entry. Okay.
So, question on this one. Is this this is just a debt tool, not a budget tool, right? So like my monthly expenses and stuff, I wouldn't want to put those in there or anything like that.
Powerpay does have a budgeting tool on a separate page, but it doesn't take those two things into consideration. It solely focuses on what are my debt payments.
Okay.
Because it's assuming that you're now, obviously, if somebody is behind on paying their bills, or they've got to focus on that first. You've got to be current, because this assumes that you're able to make at least minimum payments, right? And so, but it can be a way in tandem with a budget. I think, if I never budgeted until I was trying to get out of debt. I never budgeted my whole adult life, but I really think doing that in tandem, doing a zero-based budget and really looking at where every single dollar was going, and I actually used Powerpay before I even knew that I would be working for Utah State University. I was introduced to it as a financial counselor when I was working with service members, and I used those two in tandem. So I was really, really intentional about, if I had an extra $5, boom, it was going towards my debt. So they really work together like peanut butter and jelly. If you like peanut butter and jelly, they're just better together. That's how I look at it. So to answer your question, it doesn't combine those, but you know what? I like that idea. That would be like a new iteration of Powerpay. That would be kind of cool to build that tool together. So thank you for that great idea.
You want to show them the budgeting tool really quick on Powerpay?
Sure.
Just real quick.
Yeah. So you go to Powerpay here, of spending plan. And there's a basic one and an extended. So if you want to have more details, you just start with putting in your monthly income, and then what are you putting in savings? And it'll just spit out right away, like, okay, I'm putting in 150. That's 5% of your income. How much are you putting into retirement? And then you click on these, and you can get really nitty gritty about, you don't have to put something in everything, but it kind of breaks it out. Food, clothing. So it gets pretty detailed. And then you can print that out, but it doesn't, except for here, what your debt payments are, and it can also show you well, how much of your money every month is going towards debt. So this can be a good gauge to be like, well, we don't want to typically, except for a mortgage, consumer debt, if we're more than 20% of our income is going towards consumer debt, we're pretty stretched, and we shouldn't think about taking on additional debt. So this could be helpful to just kind of look at ratios like, wow, I'm spending 80% of money just on housing or just on whatever, right? Because a lot of people have too much of their money going towards a particular category, and they could be like, hey, I'm spending a lot of money on meals eaten out. Maybe I need to, cut back or reshuffle some stuff around. Yeah, so this could be a tool if you want to just have it all in one place. You enter it and it's all there when you log into Powerpay. So that's one way to look at it, but they don't talk to each other, if that makes any sense.
And along the lines of your your thought of, combining the two. If I were to reduce my internet bill, get a lower internet speed or something like that, I could also snowball that into the Powerpay process and say, I'm going to
Now I
eat
have
some
extra
interest that way.
money, put it
Yeah.
towards this debt. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
brilliant, Trenton. That's really brilliant. I love that idea. Because I know that we're looking at making some updates. And of course, it's a matter of having the money to do it, because it's going to have to be re-engineered in the software, the software itself. But I really like that idea. I'm going to bring it up in our next team meeting, because that could be we're celebrating 30 years of Powerpay. If you can believe it, it's been around for 30 years. It used to be on a floppy disk back in the day. I mean, then a
I'll take
CD,
a
and then it was on.
10% cut.
There you go. Pay off your debts. There you go. So that's how Powerpay works, in a nutshell. So how is Shelley going to be successful with using Powerpay? She has to continue to make her minimum payments. It has to be constant. It doesn't mean things can't change. Like if your situation changes, you just go back into Powerpay and you update. You update the numbers. If you really wanted to get a more precise number, she has to stop adding to her debts. She uses the power payment. She doesn't reabsorb that money that was freed up from paying off a debt into her budget and spends it, at shopping or going out to eat or whatever, going on vacation. And then she adjusts her plan as needed. So she might find that 1 month she has a little extra money, and maybe 1 month she doesn't. And speaking of making extra payments, we're going to jump into our last objective, which is talking about some ideas. Alicia's going to take us through some strategies and ideas to free up money to make extra payments on your debt, if you are in a position to want to do that, and to see if you can do that.
All right. And I love that Trenton kind of already was thinking about this for us. And we'd love to hear other ideas that you guys have or that you think of in the chat as well as we go throughout these, because we are not going to be talking extensively on this part and every single idea that you could possibly use to free up money to be extra payments towards your debts. But we will be going through just a few of our favorites. And our team has created a tool called the Cutting Expenses Booklet that has about 100 different tips in it to help in cutting back on some of your expenses in different categories of your budget. If you're like, I really would like to put a little extra money towards my debt payments and accelerate that debt-free journey. Or if you just want to put some extra money towards your other goals that you set too, then this can be helpful. And so this is a free resource that we've developed, and it can be downloaded from the Utah Money Moms website. If any of you have a smartphone, you're welcome to scan this QR code right here to download it and check it out. Or we can also put a link to it in the chat as well. And like what you can see right here, you can kind of see how it's broken down. We've got pretty much any category of your budget included in this booklet. And so we just want to share a couple of our favorite tips from it. So first of all, I think we can all agree that we have felt the effects of inflation at the grocery store. So one of our top tips for that is planning your meals in advance. And this can go back to saving yourself time and also cutting back the stress of what's for dinner each night. And so it can be helpful in some instances to include other members of your family in the meal planning process as well. Let me grab the link really quick.
Yeah, Alicia's going to put that cutting expenses toolkit link in the chat for everybody.
So in some instances, it can be helpful to involve other members of your family in the meal planning process. In some instances, it may just be easier to take this on your own as well. So evaluate what's helpful for your situation. But then also you may consider using the weekly store ads to help in preparing both the menu and then also your shopping list as well. And so kind of planning your meals around the main things that are on sale for that coming week. Or you may also, to help out with this, consider downloading the free Flip app is what it's called. And this app helps with consolidating retail circulars for your area. And it makes it easy to compare your shopping lists to the circulars from the local stores and also determine which stores' digital coupons will save you the most money as well for that particular week. And then our last tip to kind of help out with planning meals in advance is to make at least one night a week a pantry or freezer cooking night. And it kind of blows my mind with this statistic right here, but Americans throw away about 30 to 40% of our food supply just because it simply goes uneaten until it's no longer edible. And it's kind of sad and surprising right there. That's about 30% or 40% of our food budget just goes in the trash. And so being intentional in making sure that we are planning our meals, at least sometimes around what we already do have, so that we're not letting it go bad. And then our favorite entertainment tip is sharing subscriptions or memberships where possible. There are some streaming services or some other subscriptions that do allow this, at least for a certain number of friends or family members. And so definitely look into the terms of that, see if that's something that can help in saving a little bit of money. Transportation, shopping around annually for auto insurance and calling and seeing if your agent works with like multiple different insurance companies. There are some of them out there that work with like 12 or 15 different insurance companies. You may just ask your agent or consider going to policygenius.com. It is a highly rated and reputable resource to use when comparing your insurance policy rates. And if you do have an agent that you already work with, that you enjoy working with, you may even simply just give them a call on an annual basis and say, hey, is this the best rate that I could be getting for my coverage? Are there any other additional discounts that are available that maybe I'm not taking advantage of yet? It can be helpful. This is something that we do annually, and sometimes we are able to save ourselves about $75 or $100 per year just in seeing how time lapse since negative things that have happened on our records, or even just additional discounts, or in some instances switching companies as well. And then lastly, with utility expenses, investing in a programmable thermostat. And these can be set to automatically adjust the heat or cooling at specified times during the day and night. And they do cost anywhere between $50 and $200. But most people are able to recoup that investment cost within the first year or two of using them. With how much energy and money they save. And there are some different great rebates and also discounts and incentives offered by utility companies, particularly if you are a Utah resident. I do know we had somebody tuning in from out of state, but with Rocky Mountain Power and their WattSmart program, they have lots and lots of different rebates and incentives that can also really help out in making sure that you have energy efficient appliances in your home. And it does include the programmable thermostat as well. So look into that, or if you're not in Utah, then feel free to look into any rebates and discounts that your utility company offers as well. And so Vincenza is going to actually take us back to, oh, we do have one more principle before Vincenza takes us back. So the step down principle. So just really briefly how this works, because nobody really likes to be told that they can't do something that they enjoy just because they need to cut back in their expenses. And when most people think about how to cut expenses from their spending, it's usually an either or scenario of kind of like you either do it or you cut it out kind of thing. And that can be kind of hard to stick with in the long run. And so this is where the step down principle comes into play, is it helps you to build better spending habits over time and also make more gradual changes. And this can go hand in hand with the cutting expenses booklet as well. The cutting expenses booklet can help give you some ideas to help out in applying the step down principle. So how it works, just briefly, you'll put the most expensive option at the top or the most frequent use of something, or just where you are right now in a particular category, such as going to the movies or eating out as well. So eating out, if you go out to eat every day for lunch, that would be the most expensive and most frequent option. And then the least expensive option down at the bottom. And you're ultimately increasing your awareness of your personal spending habits and coming up with different levels of spending along the way that you can maybe cut back down to. And so it is important to determine where you are and where you would like to go along your steps. You don't have to step all the way down to the very bottom, but maybe just like 1 or 2 steps, and that can help in freeing up at least a little bit of money. And then this is just a really basic example, and these are pre-inflation numbers that we have right here on this example. But with going and seeing a movie theater, we put the most or a movie at the theater would be the most expensive option. And then we have some other different options to step down a little bit in our spending of how expensive it is, all the way down to checking out a movie from the local library as well. And the big idea is you're making gradual changes along the way that are more sustainable without having to cut things out completely that you enjoy doing. And then just a couple other additional things on our next slide about the step down principle, a couple more ideas that you could consider is learning to make things yourselves, purchasing the same items from a less expensive store or place, reducing the volume of something that you purchase so that less is being wasted, or maybe you're not consuming quite as much as well, or just eliminating part of a paid experience without sacrificing the fun. So still going out to eat, but maybe not buying sodas, getting water instead, or not getting dessert. So now Vincenza is going to wrap us up with Shelly really quick. Show you something.
So Shelly, remember her, I introduced you earlier. Shelly uses the cutting expenses booklet and applies the step down principle, and she finds a way to make extra payments. So let me show you how that works. Alicia, can you put, I didn't see the link to the cutting expenses unless I missed it. I didn't see that in the chat. Well, I want to just show you how, if you wanted to make extra payments, how would you do that? So we'll go back to Powerpay. We'll go back to Shelly. And saving time, I already created a profile, Shelly making extra payments. So it's the same information. You would click on extra payments. And in Shelly's situation, she applied, she was diligent and got her taxes done, right? Tax season opened. Let's pretend she already got her tax refund, but she's anticipating getting $1,700 next month. And so she decides she's going to apply $1,700. She's going to throw it at her debt, and she's going to start that in March. So whatever month you're in, anytime you want to make an extra payment, The way this calculator works, you have to do it in the following calendar month. That's just the way the calculator works. And then you can decide the frequency. Am I going to do that one time? Am I going to do it annually, monthly, etc.? And Shelly also finds ways to cut expenses, and she's able to put an extra $150 towards her debt, again, starting next month, and she's going to do that monthly. And then you would save the payment information, and then we'd go back to our payment calendar. And I want to show you, remember how Shelly, it was going to take her 3 years and 10 months using Powerpay. Now she's shaved it down to 3 years and 1 month. So now she's, practically 3 years. She's going to be debt free instead of almost 4 years. And then she's going to save $9,000, not $7,000 in interest, but over $9,000 in interest. And then again, it just updates. It's going to show you that lump sum payment. And this is where the payment calendar is helpful. So Shelly's like, okay, I have this tax refund. Which debt should I put it towards? Well, you said you want to pay your debt in the highest interest, the order of the highest interest first. You're going to put that $1,700 toward that high interest credit card debt that's charging you 20% plus the minimum payment. And then you're going to make minimum payments on the rest of your debt. And then that extra $150 as well gets added on to that high interest credit card debt. And then the next month, it's going to tell you how to divide that extra 150 that you said you were going to be putting in monthly. You don't have to do extra payments, but you have the option to do that with Powerpay. Ooh. So we have a question about bankruptcy. So that is a rather involved question because it really depends on your situation, and you have to understand the consequences of filing bankruptcy. It costs money to file bankruptcy also. And then you just have to understand how many years that's going to affect the ability to be able to be extended credit in the future. Because it's quite a long time. I know that after the first 2 or 3 years, creditors and lenders may be willing to look at you more than if you didn't have a bankruptcy, but that'll stay on your credit report depending on, I believe it's 7 years. I can't remember if it's 7 years or 10 years that will stay on your credit report because there's different types of bankruptcies that you would file. One is you discharge and understand too that not all debt, depending on the type of bankruptcy you file, you cannot discharge all debt. There are some debts that cannot be discharged in bankruptcy. So you have to look at that too. And so if you're able to make minimum payments or, you can always renegotiate. That's something that we talk about in some of our other classes. Like if you're making your payments on time, but you're just feeling like, I can't, it's gonna take me forever to do this. You can negotiate. I would look at debt consolidation before I would do bankruptcy. I would look to see if you can consolidate all of your debts into one and get a lower interest rate and see if you can afford that payment. And there are a lot of reputable financial credit counseling companies that you can contact that will help you do either like a debt reorganization plan, or they'll give you some free credit counseling to kind of figure out what's the best avenue for you. Bankruptcy should really be a last resort. And so I always just tell folks, just explore other things, other options before you file bankruptcy. So that would be my advice if that's helpful. So there's a company, Alicia, maybe because I'm sharing my screen. I'm trying to think of the Financial Credit Counselors of America. There's a website that will give you reputable companies that you can contact. So maybe Alicia, if you can look at that. Because I don't personally, I don't have any that I could personally recommend, but I could recommend you to a resource that's reputable and is going to, be legitimate. Because there are some people that work in this field that are shady, that have you stop paying on all your debts and then collect all your payments and then they destroy your credit. And there are some companies out there, unfortunately, that are predators. So you just want to make sure you're working with an accredited, reputable company. I'm trying to see where.
And then also with chapter 11, I think that the consequences of filing that type of bankruptcy will also depend on how you have your own business set up. If you are filing it for like your own business, particularly if you have it set up as a LLC or if you have it set up differently. So that's just another thing to keep.
So there, I can maybe as a follow-up, Trent, maybe can I email it to you and then could you disseminate that information? I'm going to do a little research and I know I've had that question before. Actually, somebody emailed me once and I had a really detailed response to it. And I'm happy to share that information if anybody would find that useful. Okay. So in closing,
Vincenza, real quick,
yeah.
I'll load that. I'll also include those links in when we upload this recording to our YouTube channel and stuff like that. So
Okay.
those that are watching, if you look in the comments or in the description of the recording here, you should be able to find these resources.
Okay, great. So just kind of recapping what we talked about today, we talked about some ways to decrease stress about your finances, really just coming face to face with it and controlling the controllables. And then once you feel like having a plan, I think is really helpful when you're dealing with staring at your finances, whether you're happy with them or not. I think creating a plan is really going to be helpful because then you feel like I can do something about this. And hopefully you can use Powerpay to kind of experiment with that and see if that's something that could work for you. And then we talked about a couple of different free resources or concepts, the step down principle and the cutting expenses booklet, to see if there's ways that you can adjust expenses. And we only highlighted a few, but there are over 90 tips in that book. And some of them you may have tried, but some of them you might be like, well, I never thought of that. Maybe I could try that one. Because sometimes we just feel like, I don't know what else I can do. I've had one thing that we didn't mention. I had somebody come up to me after a class and said, Vincenza, I'm doing everything that you're teaching. I don't know how else to cut expenses. And then I asked her what her tax refund was the previous year. And she told me she got $11,000 back. And so I asked her, maybe you can look at your withholding, look and see if they're taking too much money out of your paycheck every month. And maybe instead of waiting all year to get that money back, granted, some of it was earned income credit and the child tax credit. And even if you don't owe taxes, you can get a refund from the IRS. But just another strategy to think about, how much is getting taken out of your paycheck? Perhaps you can adjust that. And if you're worried about not having enough taken out, go to irs.gov. There's a withholding calculator that will help you figure out what's the right amount of withholding where you're not getting a huge refund and you're not getting a huge tax bill. And that way you have a little bit more cash flow coming in every month that you could put towards saving or paying down debt or whatever your goals are. Dealing with financial stress, we know can be overwhelming. I've been there, done that. And then just think about, some of the strategies that challenge you to try something. We're going to, again, send some follow-up information. We do teach Powerpay every so often too, in part of our regular webinar series where we get a little bit more detailed into it. But hopefully at least it got you started to be thinking about, maybe this is something I can use as a budgeting tool or as a way to see how long, even if you want to pay down a mortgage and you can see like, well, what if I made extra payments? How much quicker could I pay it off? You could play around with that calculator and try all different types of scenarios. And there's also a debt consolidation feature in there where it'll show you, is it better to use Powerpay or is it better to consolidate my debt? So it's a pretty robust tool. And so I encourage you to play around with it and see if that could work for you. So we always like to leave people with some next steps of what hopefully you can take something of what you've learned and apply it. So if you've never sat down and gathered all of your debt information, I encourage you to do that and see how much would you owe, how long will it take you to pay off, and create that report using Powerpay. And then if any of you are interested in more of a comprehensive personal finance course that covers more in depth, talking about credit, debt, budgeting, being financially organized, home ownership, investing. There's this online course called Powerpay Money Master, developed by Utah State University Extension professors. If you're a resident of Utah, you can apply for a fee waiver. Even if you're not, we encourage you to apply for a fee waiver. You just go to powerpay.org and there's a little button that says apply for a fee waiver. It's online, it's self-paced, it's short videos, worksheets. We're doing something new this year. We're doing an actual hybrid class where we meet with you live via Zoom every week and we go through the modules. People have questions, or just sometimes it's more motivating to go through a course when you've got other people there to cheer you on and to help you and to answer questions. This week is our last night, but we're going to be offering it again sometime in the spring, either March or April. And so if you decide to enroll in the Powerpay Money Master online course, then you can get information about the hybrid class. We haven't published that schedule yet, but shoot, you could join us on Thursday night, even if it's at the tail end, and then you can kind of get a feel for what that's like. But you just have to register for the course first. So something that I highly recommend the class. It's really, really great. I took it a couple of years ago, and I work in this field and I learned lots. So I encourage you to check that out. So want to thank everybody for joining us. We always love to hear feedback. If you wouldn't mind filling out this survey, and as a thank you, we'll send you a little fun swag, cool swag to say thanks. It's pretty quick. It just takes 2 or 3 minutes. Alicia can also put the link in the chat if you prefer to answer the survey that way. Does anybody have any questions before we say bid adieu until next time, where I believe it's in March? We're going to be having another class. Is that correct?
It's either March or May, and I was just.
I think it's May. I think it's May. I think you're right. It's May 10th.
May 10th.
Same time, same place. We have a lot of free resources available at Utah Money Moms. It's a Utah State University Extension website, and Alicia and we contribute to the blogs and some of the information that's posted, but there's also a lot of great free resources that we've developed, and they're all free and they're downloadable. So we encourage you. You can find the cutting expenses booklet there. You can find this free finance calendar. You can download it. It gives you like 3 or 4 tips every month of what you can be doing to kind of keep working on your personal finances and help keep you in control. So we encourage you to look at that. We've been doing it. This is our 3rd year. It's been pretty popular. So we keep, I mean, you can look at all the past years. It's not going to be redundant. There's always going to be some great ideas. I keep it with my calendar and I just look at it and go, oh yeah, that's good. Maybe I should do that test. So just really small, bite-sized, easy things that you can do to keep you motivated with, finances is something that we learn as we go, and we try to do better, but most of us don't get any formal education in how to manage money. So this is just part of why we're doing what we do. We hope that, you were here today. And so I commend you for being open to learning something, because I hope you'll walk away from this and have something you can put the little seed in your head or put some tools in your pocket so you feel like you're more empowered to take control. Well, that's it. That's my spiel. We want to thank you for taking time to be with us today.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming on and telling us about these things. Every time I hear you guys present, I'm like, okay, I am going to do this. I'm going to,
Awesome.
So great information.
That's what we want. We got you motivated.
Yes. So
Super.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And we can stick around for a couple more minutes if anyone has any other questions too.